Oh, look what just landed literally in my lap. Hi, welcome to Zgadgetreview. Today we have the unboxing and review of the Xbox Elite Series 2. This is that second iteration, second generation of the Elite controller. I know this controller has been out for some time now, and I figure why not do a review on this now that there's so many controllers coming out in the market. We'll see how this works with the Xbox Series X, and also see if it's worth buying, probably for someone for the holidays, maybe for yourself. So here we have the Elite Series 2. Here's what the box looks like. You have what the side of the contents are, and the other side I think is this Spanish. And then you have here in the back a little more explanation of everything in the box, and it gives you every single thing that you are supposed to get inside the package. So let's go ahead and open this. The box slides up like that. And the first thing you see here is the package. It says a carrying case for the controller. As you can see here, it has the Xbox symbol. So we're gonna look at this in a minute because there's some things down here. So we have the other packaging here. You have the charging cable, which is a USB-C cable to USB-C-A. And then here we have the literature of the controller. So we have the limit warranty, and then we have what is technically your instruction manual. So it tells you what the parts are, how to use them, breakdown of the controller, how to charge it, all those things. So that's the contents of the box. Let's go ahead and open this. So you have your zipper here. But before I open the zipper, this is where you will open in order to charge the controller. So you have that little space here where you will plug your USB-C cable to plug it while it's in the case. So here you have it. The controller in pristine condition. I have not used it yet. I just literally removed the tabs of the package before starting the video. Here, this area is grippy. It's rubbery plastic. The new Xbox Series X controllers have a similar texture, but it's actual plastic in the Xbox Series X controllers, the newer controllers. But this is actually rubberized, and you can really feel the grip. It's all black. The accents, I will say, are gray. So you have the D-pad, which is kind of what the D-pad of the Xbox Series X controller looks like now. Then you have the triggers, which are also texture. This is also something that was ported over to the Xbox Series X controller. And you don't have a lid for the battery, so the battery is inside. As you can see here as well, the face buttons have gray accents inside. So it's all pretty much all black on gray. And then you have your paddles back here as well, which you can hear there. So that is a controller. This is where your controller will sit in order to charge. So you have these pins right here that connect to the back of the controller. You see the pins there. So we have shorter thumbsticks here, so you can replace them. So all you do is pull it out, that simple. And then you will place it here so you don't lose it. And then you will just go ahead and place the new one here. And so this is magnetized, so it's very simple to pull out and to put back in. The ones that come with the controller are texture, and if you can see there, the texture right there of the thumbstick. And then these ones, the ones that come inside the package, don't have any texture in it. And then you also have two different kinds of textured thumbstick and a rounded thumbstick. So as you can see there, this is quite taller than the other ones, and it's also texture there. And then this one is rounded on the top. Now, if you're a fan of the regular D-pad, it comes also with a replacement for the D-pad, so you can have the cross D-pad if that's what you prefer. It's metal. All we have to do is pull the D-pad like that, and then we just need to put the new one. And then finally, we have this little tool to make the thumbsticks tighter or looser. Clockwise to adjust, counterclockwise to loosen. You can also tighten the triggers here if you want to make them tighter when you press it so they don't travel as far back. You have 3 settings back here that allow you to change it. So that's the unboxing of the Elite Series 2. Now let's go put it through its paces and see how good it performs versus a regular controller. Here we have what the software for the controller looks like, and so you can go and configure everything in this. So you can change what each button does. And so if we go to configure, I'm going to go to profile, and I'm going to go to the little pen in order to change it. So here, for example, if you wanted to, you have the palettes here at the bottom. You can assign whatever button you want. So if I go here and I press A right now, which is what I have assigned, the primary button assignment is A. And then you can, of course, make that anything you want. Or you can go into action. So if you want to make a launch an app, mute your TV, open your guide. Other cool thing that you can do is do what it says here, shift. So if it says used as shift button, and I mark it here, what this is going to do is every time I press the palette there, it's going to make it so if you see where on the next one where it says right bumper, which is what I have assigned, if you see there below that as my shift button is the B button. That means that every time I press my shift, it will make it so that will change to being the B button. Or you could assign it a action. So up next we have what your adjustments can be made for your left stick, right stick triggers, vibration, and brightness. So let's go over really quickly what the sticks do. So if you can see here, your assignment will be your primary or shift. So in this case, I'm going to leave it as primary. Then you can go and switch to default, delayed, aggressive, instant, smooth. Those are the types of movements. And so to give you an idea of what each means, is if you go default, you have these outer rings here that show you how far the movement goes. And so if you see the movement is kind of slow, and I'm moving the stick slowly to show you how long it takes to travel to the rings. But if we go and let's say I go to delayed, if you notice there is an extra line there, the darker line. So the darker line is showing me what the travel of the stick used to be versus what it is now. With the way I'm moving the stick, in default, it would have already arrived to that threshold. But because I have it on delay, it takes longer to get there. The next one will be aggressive. And this one gives you 3 rings on the outside to show you how far it moves. So look how quickly it travels. So if I press to the left, and I'm doing the same movement, I'm not traveling that fast. Look how quickly it gets to the outer ring versus what it will get to when it's on default. So that gives you an idea of how fast it will travel on the movement. Then instant, it just moves a lot faster. Do you see that? How quickly it gets there? And then lastly, for smooth, it tightens the circles as well. So there's 3 circles still, but if you notice, the first circle is a lot closer. If you notice, it pretty much travels all the way. And even on smooth, my default moves faster than the way I have it programmed right now. And so if you notice what the travel is telling you is, look, it's going to be faster to get to the first ring, second ring, but it's going to take longer to travel to the outer ring. Here below, you can control the curve adjustment, and then you have the calculation that is used for each one. So you have radial, axis dependent, and true diagonal. The right stick is the same thing. So here we have the triggers. As you can see, I have my triggers set at 10 for the sensitivity. And right now, you can see right there how they travel. I have the triggers as loose as they go. So when I press it, you can see how it's traveling, pressing it slowly, pressing it hard all the way. So it tells you here, shows you how long it takes to arrive all the way back when it's pressed. So if I'm going to move it to the second position, you can see how long it takes to travel. It's a lot faster, and I'm pressing it slowly, but look how fast it gets to the end. On the final position, third position or first position, depending on how you're looking at this, travel is a lot faster. I'm pressing slowly. It takes a little bit to arrive there, but look, like as slow as I press it, it's already at the very end. And you can change individually your trigger. So you can see on the right trigger how long it's taking to get to that point. If I'm pressing slowly, see how long it takes. Up next, you can control the vibration of each portion of the controller. And then lastly, you're supposed to be able to control the brightness of the home button on the controller. But I personally haven't seen it change. Like if I go all the way down, the brightness on that home button doesn't change at all. So now that you've seen the unboxing, seen what you can do with the software, the amount of customization that you can do with the software on the Xbox, let me give you my experience using the Elite 2 controller. I'm going to say that it was actually really, really good. I used it for a variety of games. So I used it playing Call of Duty. I used it playing the new Forza Horizon game. And I also used it to play Psychonauts 2 to give me, I will say, a variety of different genres of games and to, test out the controller on how it feels for every type of game. Let me start with Call of Duty. I will say that if you do play shooters, this controller actually is a controller that is going to not make you better at playing the game. If you suck playing a game, you're going to suck playing the game. A controller isn't going to all of a sudden, make you an amazing player at the game. But it will give you some advantages for sure. For example, when you put the triggers all the way down and you put them at the lowest, where one press takes you all the way to the back of the controller really quickly, that setting is going to make it faster and easier for you to get a shot out to your enemies. Aiming and all that, of course, that depends on how good you are, but it's going to make it easier and faster for you to not take so long when you press the trigger down to get the shot out. The tightness on the thumbsticks is also going to help you out when it comes to movement and how fast you move side to side and how quickly the controller responds to those movements for you. And the last thing I will say, the paddles. The fact that you can program movements on the paddles back here makes it so your fingers are always in the same spot. So you can keep your fingers on your triggers here. If you want to map your bumpers to one of the paddles here, you don't have to worry about grenades and the other things when you want to take them off, having to move your finger up and down, because that movement of your finger up and down takes a few seconds away from you being able to do the action, to react and all that. And those precious seconds sometimes can be a matter of life or death. So that is going to help you out on that department. And so that's for me for shooters. Again, I did it with Call of Duty. So you have 3 tension modes on this. You have light, medium, and high. So the highest represents what the Xbox 360 tension on the thumbstick was. On the lightest is what the tension is on an Xbox One controller is. So the type of tightness that you have there. And I use each one of the thumbsticks to try to get an idea of what the feeling was with each one of them and if it made a big difference. For me, using the tallest one, it created some finger fatigue. My thumb, it wouldn't hurt, but I could feel after long sessions of playing that my thumb was tired. So I ended up sticking with the ones that come with the controller, which are the regular normal size ones. And those seem to do the trick for me. It might be different for you. And the tightness at first, when I had it very, very tight, same thing. I got some finger fatigue. My fingers, obviously your fingers are not used to how tight the thumbstick is. And even it's not a lot, you're going to feel it after a while that your thumb is a little tired from moving the sticks around. For Forza Horizon 5, that actually made a huge difference on how the car handled. And that's really where I was able to tell the big difference between how it feels to control the car with a loose setting on the thumbstick versus airtight setting on the thumbstick. I personally ended up staying in the middle, so in the medium setting, because that was the best one for me. The triggers felt great. I opted for having that all the way loose when I was using the trigger. And the reason is because I wanted to feel the gas when I'm going when I'm going fast, when I'm slowing down. Same thing with the brakes. I don't want to have the car brake immediately, which will happen if I was in the lowest setting or the tightest setting. I don't know how you want to call it. So I opted for the loosest setting to go with what the regular triggers feel like. I did program some of the buttons on the paddles as well, which again is very helpful. So to do my e-brake, the rewinding, the change of the camera, I mapped all those to the paddles. With all that said, there is a learning curve for this controller because you're not used to playing the way you play with this controller. You most likely are used to playing with a regular controller, like the Xbox Series X controller that comes with the package. There's no paddles in the back, you have your triggers, bumpers, So you're used to the way your hand rests back here and grabs and touches. It's very different than when you're here, because here your fingers are going to press these buttons. And once you press these buttons, if you have it programmed to something, it is going to, create a reaction or an action when you're pressing it. It's learning and getting used to not completely pushing down on it and keeping your fingers resting over it, which again is something that you have to get used to and kind of relearn. It doesn't take a long time. It took me sincerely a couple of days to get used to the paddles being back here and not pressing them by mistake. So if you do pick up one of these and the first couple of days you're like, oh my God, what am I doing? I suck. That's just because you're getting used to how to use a controller. And it's something that is normal. You got to remember, you're used to using something like this. The one that I didn't think made a huge difference and it really didn't matter was Psychonauts 2. For Psychonauts 2, I used, again, every single thumbstick. I used all the different settings on the controller to see if I could get a different feeling. But I didn't. And I also played it with a regular controller just, again, to get an idea of how it felt. And for that type of game, I really didn't see a huge difference or a huge need for a controller like this. This controller works also depending on the type of games that you play. If you play shooters, if you play flying simulators, if you play racing games, you're going to be able to tell the difference with this controller. This controller will definitely change the way you feel about the game and how you play the game. With side scrollers, strategic game, things like that, the controller doesn't make a huge difference because you're not doing, there is action, but it's not a lot of action, right? Like you're jumping up and down. So you're mostly like pressing the A button. And if you're moving in Psychonauts, you move with the thumbsticks and things like that. You have some power so you can program to the bumpers. But again, it's just not there's some things that you do where you do some shooting with like your brain powers or whatever they're called, but it's not a tactical shooter like Call of Duty. So you can have, the simplest triggers on it. It's going to do the same thing. I guess the only biggest downside I will say is the paddles, because the paddles are always active, right? If you set the controller down on a table, you won't have a problem. But if you put it down on your leg or on a pillow or something like that, it's going to get pressed and, your Xbox is going to react to that. So for some reason, there isn't a way to lock the paddles, even though it gives you that option. If you read on the help page of Xbox or Microsoft, it tells you there's a way. But when you actually read it, it only works for the original Elite, not for this Elite, which I don't understand why the feature would have worked for the original, but it wouldn't work for that newer one. Because it would be great to be able to, if you're watching a movie or something, and this is the controller that you have available to you, that you could lock those paddles. I like setting the controller on my leg or on my lap because when I want to pause the movie or something, I have to use the controller to do that. And so to put it somewhere else, like on a table or behind me or somewhere where I have to go and reach again for it to do it, it's kind of a pain. So I will say that to me is the biggest downside. Doing my research, I did see that people were saying that the right thumbstick was crooked on the original ones. This one doesn't have that issue. I've been looking at it. I'm going to put it to the camera right now for you. If you see right there, it looks pretty even to me. It doesn't look like it's crooked in any way. So if that was an issue with the original badge that came out of the line, that issue has been corrected. It's not here. I didn't see it. I didn't have any problem with drifting either, drifting, which I had issues with, not with this controller, the Xbox Series X controller, but the Xbox One controller. I had drifting issues. But that was after having used the controller for years, right? So it wasn't something that happened immediately. It happened after like 3 or 4 years of me using the same controller. It started getting some drifting that was very obvious. It has to change, and they have to do better, especially for a controller that costs so much money like this one. Something that is pretty much an investment that you're making on a controller that it's going to last you for years, right? This controller, I'm assuming, or I'm hoping for it to last me for at least 10 years without issues. And if it was to break in the next 5 years, then yeah, I will be disappointed, because it's like, hold on, this is going to break in the same amount of time that this one's going to break. This one came for free with the Xbox, and it's $60, $50 when you buy it at the store, and this one is over $100. This one should last a lot longer. Another thing is this controller has some weight to it compared to this one. So just holding it like this, I can tell that this one's heavier. And there is something about the controller being heavier that makes it feel better in your hands, and it gives you, again, a better experience, or a different experience when you're playing a game. The times that I went back to the regular controller to play games, to kind of test the difference, I missed that weight that this controller has. It really felt different. Like, it felt like I didn't really have anything in my hands, if that makes sense, when I was playing games versus when I was playing games with this. If you know someone who plays games and the type of games that I described, they're going to love this controller. They're going to get a lot out of this controller. If you're one of the people who have been in the fence for the last couple of years, trying to figure out if it's something that will be worth it or not, again, if you play the games that I mentioned, definitely it's going to be worth it. You will definitely be able to tell the difference, and definitely have a better experience or different experience when you play games than when you do now. If you don't play those kind of games, then don't get this. What do you think about the Xbox Elite Series 2 controller? Is this something that you own? Is something that you've been looking to probably buy and maybe waiting for it to get cheaper and things like that? What do you think of that review? Do you have any questions that I might be able to answer in the comment section? Go ahead and let me know. That's it for me. Go ahead and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. It really helps the channel. Go ahead and hit that bell so you can be alerted every time we have new videos. And thank you very much for watching.